Dumb,
Cool, and weird
podcast. All right, folks, welcome to episode 2 of the Dumb, Cool, Weird podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about toxic stuff that people do. And we all know toxic stuff that everybody does.
I mean, we are guilty of it too.
Yeah, so this is going to kind of delve into a little bit about, mental health and various types of things, but also just different ways that people treat other people in interactions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to talk about, Nick, is gaslighting.
Oh, go on.
Because that's something I really don't appreciate very much. I've had several relationships where really toxic behavior in the form of gaslighting happens. Gaslighting is basically where people try to tell you that the events of the thing that happened was different than what you remembered them, and then they try to make you think you're crazy. And they do this to try to get you to always think that they're right and you're wrong. And another form of gaslighting is where people always say you're the bad one, you're the toxic one, and they try to tell you you've done all this stuff when really they're the ones that have been doing the bad stuff themselves. Have you ever dealt with anything like that?
Yeah, I have. Those people are not friends anymore.
No, not at all.
No, they're not. It's not worth hanging around for that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've mostly had that happen in relationships, not necessarily with friends, though.
When it happens with friends, it's usually people who are morally weak.
Yeah.
So you don't want to hang around them very much, anyways.
No.
It's kind of that point where you notice they're just living their life through their peak in high school, or wherever it is that they peaked. Like shit, some people peak in middle school, man.
Oh yeah, middle school?
Yeah, it's the best time of their life, and then they became a piece of shit. But yeah, they always try to make it seem like they're always right, you're always wrong. Yeah. Everything they have to say about you is critical, but the moment you offer criticism of any sort to them, they always lash out at you.
So here's the definition of gaslighting. Psychologists use the term gaslighting to refer to the specific type of manipulation where the manipulator is trying to get someone else or a group of people to question their own reality, memory, or perceptions. Like I said, I would have situations where I would date somebody, and I remember the events being that they were being like abusive towards me.
Yeah.
Like the girl I dated in college, somebody and we're not gonna name her.
No.
But one thing she would do is we would have a situation happen. She'd be really abusive towards me. She would do bad things to me. And then later on, she would say, "Oh, that's not how that happened. You were the abusive one towards me. You did this to me. You did that to me." And then when I would bring up how I remember it, "Oh, that's not how that happened. Your memory must be bad. Are you okay? Is there something wrong with you?
Yeah.
Can I help you?" Stuff like that. And that happened to me quite often.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah. But that's basically what would happen with like gaslighting. And I know that's a really toxic behavior. Another really toxic behavior I really don't like is when people ghost people.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty wrong. Like if you don't want to see somebody anymore, just tell them, like flat out.
So for people who don't know what ghosting is where you go on a couple dates with somebody, you start talking to somebody, and then you automatically just cut them out and don't even say anything to them. You don't give them an explanation or anything. If you're dating somebody or you're a friend, it could be a romantic or friend, please just let them know what's going on before you ghost them. That's not right. Let's stop that toxic behavior, please.
The next thing I guess you could say is like how people use their politics as a way to shame you.
Yeah.
Like when you're just because you don't agree with them, they start like calling you like a racist or a Nazi or something. Just because you have a minor disagreement with the way they believe in something, and then they start going off about this. It's like you could really ruin somebody's life by telling somebody, "Oh well, don't hang out with him. That guy's a racist or he's a Nazi." It's like you do realize that those words still mean something to somebody else a lot differently than what you're actually making it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. But I've also seen that happen with women when women accuse men of being sexually inappropriate. I mean,
yeah,
it's you come to find out they actually didn't do anything at all. And the reason why they do that to them is because they just don't necessarily like that person.
Yeah.
I saw it firsthand on Facebook like not too long ago. This guy was talking to this girl on a comment section, and I'm not going to use any names, obviously, because I don't want people to get hurt or get harassed or anything. But essentially what was said is the guy was just asking this girl if she was okay and all this. And this other girl came on there and was like, what are you doing, you little creep? You must be some kind of like person who stalks women. And those two people ignored this woman that she kept saying this, but then the insults kept getting worse and worse as their conversation kept getting deeper and deeper. Come to find out, that guy and that girl had been friends since like elementary school, and he was just trying to figure out if she was okay because she had broken a leg or something like that before.
Yeah.
And he was just asking if she was okay. But the other girl kept calling him like musty, called him ugly, called him, just kept like trying to like a shaming tactic to try to make him feel bad about himself. Come to find out, like, the reason why she was doing all that to begin with was because she didn't like his politics. She didn't like the way he thought, because he was a centrist. She was like a hardcore liberal.
Yeah.
And because of that, just because he was a centrist, which is not even like alt-right or anything, she just didn't like that. So all of a sudden, like, she made up her mind about him and that he was a piece of shit. But that's what happens these days, is people just, they want to like ruin people's lives because they don't agree with them,
It's terrifying because it's like, it's what divides us as people.
Yeah.
Like, but it also gets people in trouble. It's like a false sexual assault allegation, It's like, well, there's been cases where people's whole careers have been ruined and lives, like where you get put in prison because somebody you had consensual sex with, you just said you wanted to take it back, and you're like, oh, well, I don't like them anymore. Or they just make it up. Like, I think they've actually decided, like, they said they were going to make that a criminal offense though now.
Well, what I think they should do is, if somebody says there is a sexual assault or rape happening, I think it should be reported, but I think it should be kept secret until they figure out if it's like true or not. Because even just mentioning that somebody sexually raped or assaulted somebody can actually ruin somebody's life, even if it's true or not.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a stain on your record.
Yeah, it could end a career just like that if it goes public. That's what I'm saying. Like, something like that needs to be kept secret till they do the investigation, and whatever they figure out, then that's when they can release the information if it's true or not. But if it's false, I don't think they should release it at all, because it can like ruin somebody's whole career.
It could, but it's in a way though. It's like it should be a criminal offense to make a false accusation.
Well, it's like what happened to that kid that was going to, I think he was going to, was it Purdue or something?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? The girl said that, so they both consented to sex, but they were both really drunk, but then he got in trouble. She didn't get in trouble, which is fucking weird to me. And they ended up kicking him out of the school because she said that he raped her, even though there was tons of evidence from her friends and other people that they were just like actually consensually having sex, And then what happened is the mother of the boy sued the school, and the school ended up having to pay him like $100,000 settlement or something because it like ruined his life essentially.
There was a case though, like they made a TV series out of on Netflix where a bunch of boys like were targeted by the police in an investigation. I think it was like the Brooklyn Nine or something. I can't. But these were young kids who were lined up, and they were racially profiled, and they were because a white woman was raped and killed in a park. And they didn't do very much digging, and it turns out that these kids now were innocent, but the lawyers themselves weren't stripped of their license to practice law. Is what I heard. Like, this was like a couple of years ago. And that story still bothers me because it's like you heard about like cases like this happening in the 1950s. It's a very famous civil rights case where these two white men killed an 11-year-old boy because they said he was whistling at a white woman, and it's like that's some crazy shit that we used to like have people get away with that kind of stuff.
Well, I remember when I was 17 years old, I worked at Kroger, and there was this girl who had like a huge crush on me, and she kept asking me out, and I kept telling her I wasn't interested. I'm not interested. I don't like you like that. And one night we were working late, and she went out in the parking lot, and I was going out there to go to my car to leave to go home for the night, and she was like, "Oh, look at this! I found a bottle of wine. You want to go get drunk with me?" And I was just like, "No." I was like, "And we're on camera right now. You should probably go take that back inside." And she's like, "No, it's mine. I'm gonna keep it." And she put the bottle of wine in her car, and I was like, "Okay, good luck with that." And next week at work, I went into work, and I didn't see my name on the schedule. And I was like, "Where the fuck is my name at?" And all of a sudden, like the manager comes and says, "Hey, we need to have a talk with you." And they took me up to the store manager's office, and I was sitting there, and I was just like, "What's going on?" And he starts like drilling me about like I know what I did, and I started smiling at him. I'm like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "Don't." He's like, "Don't smile at me, you stupid son of a bitch." And I was like, "Whoa, dude, I'm a kid. You can't yell at me like that." And he starts like yelling at me, and the other managers are there, and I go, "What is this about?" And "You know what you did. You know you sexually assaulted that girl." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I haven't done anything." And he was like, "I'm not gonna say her name, but we'll just call her Sarah." He's like, "You know what you did to Sarah?" And I was just like, "It's like Sarah's been trying to date me for like a month, and I keep saying no." I was like, "Do you have proof that I sexually assaulted her?" And I swear to God, you can't make this up. This is even back in 2006. He said this. He said, "I don't care if we have evidence or not. I just know how men are, and I support a women's." He said, "I support a women's like battered shelter." And I go, "Okay." I was like, "I'm a 17-year-old kid, man. I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, "I'm not interested in her." I was like, I've never even been alone with her." And he goes, "Well, we saw the footage of y'all in the parking lot." And I'm like, "You mean when she had that bottle of wine and she put it in her car?" And he goes, "Yeah, and you gave her that wine." I'm like, "Excuse me?
Yeah.
I didn't give her shit." I was like, I take offense to this shit. I was like, "I feel like you're only doing this because I'm a guy and she's a girl." I was like, "This is not cool."
Yeah.
And her mom was there, and I go, "Are you fucking okay with this shit?" And she goes, "I'm just telling you what she told me." I was like, "Yeah, your daughter's a fucking bitch and she's a fucking liar." And she goes, "Hey, watch it. Don't say that about my kid." I was like, "Fuck your kid." I was like, "She's trying to ruin my life because I won't go on a date with her. Are you fucking crazy?"
Hell, it's like,
And it ended very badly for them because they wanted me to take a lie detector test, and I did, and I passed it with flying colors. Which that doesn't mean anything anyway, because lie detector
Yeah,
tests are bullshit.
yeah, they actually are.
But I caught her, I trapped her, because she messaged me a month later, and she was like, "Are you doing okay?" I was like, "Fuck no, I'm not doing okay. You got me fired from my fucking job." The guy goes, the store manager was like, "You're fired." No, he didn't say. He said, "You're terminated." I was like, "What? Is Arnold going to come in here and get me?" And he like the other manager,
Christ.
like the other manager kind of smirked a little bit because it was pretty funny. But I was like, "You know what, dude? You can take your fucking job and you can shove it up your fat, ugly ass, dude. Fuck you and fuck all of y'all. Y'all are fucking pieces of shit. And y'all don't care fucking one damn bit about evidence or anything. Y'all are fucking scum." I was like, "I hope every one of y'all gets what's coming to you." And so I left. My dad went up there and almost got in a fight with a fist fight with the guy because my dad got really fucking pissed about this.
Yeah.
But it ended in my favor though, because like about a month later she texted me, and in the text message she said, "Are you doing okay?" I was like, "No, I'm not doing okay. You just tried to get me in trouble and you made me look like a rapist or something." And she goes, "The only reason I told them that is because you wouldn't go on a date with me." And I was like, "Ha, gotcha, bitch." And I like saved those text messages and I gave them to my dad. My dad printed them off and brought them up there. And I shit you not, I can't make this up. They said I was cleared, but they said I still wasn't allowed to come in the store just because of the principle of it alone. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Well, that's the next thing that's very toxic is spreading misinformation about anything.
Oh,
I mean, if you're, you not just like ruin somebody's life, but you can ruin your own life. But the fact about lying is probably one of the worst, most toxic traits because it could go down so many avenues to where you could get somebody hurt.
mm-hmm.
Like one little lie can ruin somebody's like. I mean, like look at what happened with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
All those years ago, like with one little lie,
Yeah.
almost got prison time, but he lost all of his sponsorships.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't allowed back at that store ever again. I mean, I went back like many years later because they didn't recognize me anymore. But come to find out, and this is the karma part of it.
Yeah,
That store manager actually did some prison time
Really
for raping women.
interesting. Well, you know what? That's kind of that kind of makes sense
Yeah.
because if he like he wouldn't want something like that getting back to him.
So maybe that's why he was the weirdest about it, because he was doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, he Bill Cosby'd some girls.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very because predators usually hang out like that. They like going because I think it was what Ted Bundy did too. Like I think he worked at a women's shelter or something. Or
Well,
he was always like part of like women's groups in it to like scope them out too.
that only happened to me like once or twice. The second time it ever happened to me, it was just like somebody texted me one time, and they said that I know what I did, and I did this, this, and this, and they told me the date that I did it. And the funny thing is, the date that I did it, I was with Lexi, so me and her were like doing something, because she remembers the day too, that like when
Yeah.
we were at some kind of event or something. I don't know why people do stuff like that. I don't know what the motivation is.
No, I
know?
think the worst toxic trait though is when like for a situation that happened with a friend of mine is where he told me that somebody had accused him of that, and they did sort of the same thing with the date and all. And that was a day that we were getting fucked up at his house watching South Park. Like we had bought about like I can't remember. We went through like a box of beer. Like we bought a box of beer. That included like a 30 rack, a bunch of 40 ounces, and an extra 12 pack. Just because. And we gotten fucked up at his house, and we ended up falling asleep on the couch together. That's what happened that night. And apparently, when he confronted her friends about it, they said, "Oh, well, she just does that, you know." Like, no, that's not okay. That's very dangerous. Like, you can't just shrug this off and like laugh about it. It's something serious.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, next worst trait I would honestly have to say is like next one. I think the next worst trait though is like how some guys just don't get it that like women aren't flirting with them.
No,
Like that's another one.
Yeah, they can't pick up the hint.
Like they can't like it's not even like a little hint. It's like blatantly obvious. Like oh, I have a boyfriend. It's like, well, you're just saying that. It's like, dude, you're being like a real fucking dick. Like you got to get out of here before somebody kicks your ass, because it's gonna happen. Because that's not all right either.
Yeah, I mean,
like-
yeah,
It's like, because I mean that's borderline sexual harassment. I mean, no, wait, that's not borderline. That is sexual harassment. That's sexual harassment at its finest right there. And that's like what I've realized is like that's like one of the next things is like women who come up with false allegations, and guys who just keep prodding and going on until eventually they hurt somebody,
yeah,
and nobody listens.
Yeah.
Like that's the flip side of the coin, is that nobody listens to those people when they're like, he's following me around. Oh, he's just innocent. You know what I mean? He's just messing around. It's like, no, it's not really that's not like messing around. That's somebody putting you in danger.
yeah.
Because they're not taking the hint.
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous. I mean, I've seen that happen to women before, and I've had to like. There's been a few times where I've had to like step in and like say, "Hey, dude, chill the fuck out. Like, leave her the fuck alone. Just go mind your own goddamn business." You know.
I mean, it's like it's like we all know something that's probably happened in our own personal lives that it's gotten like that too. I mean, shoot. There was actually an incident where my wife and I we were at a drag queen show, and one gentleman got like really touchy feely. The only reason he stopped is because I had my pocket knife that one of my buddies gave me. It was like pretty much like a fold up Bowie knife, right? So he grabbed my leg and he started running his hand up it, already about to get his ass kicked, but he's like, oh. What is that? Are you just happy to see me? I'm like, that's a fucking knife. And he walked up. He's like, I'm going to go to the restroom. Never came back.
Yeah.
But it was like, dude, you came off like nice. like as like, you know, just a person who wants to talk at the bar, and then all of a sudden you're just harassing my wife and I, and it's like you're gonna get your ass kicked at a drag queen show.
Damn, dude, that's crazy.
I was like, and like the rest of the night was good. Like the rest of the night, everyone was like really, really nice. No one was weird except for that one guy. And that made that because he wasn't just like creepy with like me. He was very creepy with me, but he was also creepy with my wife. And he tried touching my wife, and I stepped in, and then he started deciding he could touch me. And I mean, like he was about to get clocked right in the mouth.
Jesus, that's some bad toxic behavior right there, man.
Yeah. And that's the next thing. It's like that idea that I've noticed another big thing that's very toxic in terms of that whole line of sexual harassment is like in God, I keep forgetting all the acronyms. The LGBTQ plus, is that it? LGBTQ plus, is that what we are now?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm very, very confused most days. It was easier when it was 4 letters for us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I never really know.
I never know anymore because I fit in there. I just don't have I just don't get the memo every week.
Yeah. I mean, it's always something's always changing. You know.
So like one thing that I noticed is like some guys are really very predatory in the gay community.
Yeah. Gay men can be pretty predatory sometimes. I mean, I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this about me, but I've done some stuff in my my late teens, early 20s for like that type of work.
Yeah.
In the community down here, and specific type of work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I've had some really weird shit happen to me, just personally, and yeah. I think that gay men can be just as aggressive and toxic as like straight men can be with women. Like gay men with men can be just as aggressive as straight men can be with women.
It's very interesting because it's like they kind of say it's like with guys who are very homophobic. You know, it's like you don't what you're actually afraid of is what they're saying is like is a straight guy's afraid of somebody treating that guy like he treats women.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And it's like because he doesn't realize his own toxic behavior, but he doesn't like it when it's thrown back right at him.
Oh yeah,
from someone else who has the same toxic traits.
Well, you know, another really toxic thing that really bothers me is people who have mental health problems, but they don't get them fixed.
Yeah.
You know, it's not your fault that you have mental health problems, but it is your responsibility to get them under control.
Yes.
As an adult. One thing I really hate, this is something that happens to me often, is when somebody does something shitty to you, but then they go, oh, well, I'm bipolar. I'm sorry. It's my bipolar. Or they go, oh, well, you know, I'm sorry I cheated on you, but I have borderline personality disorder.
No,
I'm sorry. My bad. It was this. That, you know, they never take responsibility that they did that.
Yeah.
They always blame it on their mental health problem. But it's like, okay, well, I'm glad that you're able to admit that you have that, but you did something shitty to me. You need to admit that you did something shitty to me, and instead of blaming the problem, fix that problem so it never happens again. You know.
The next toxic trait I think I would have to say that it's something that we can all sort of learn from is don't take sides in something immediately.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's like that's kind of one of those things that anyone could be guilty about really. It's like I realize it's like, man, you know, you hear one story, didn't hear the other side of the story, and you didn't really feel like you got enough evidence, but you still made that decision to like believe someone over another person and realize that you're supporting the wrong person.
Yeah. And
then you're like, man, this is a lot. It's like you feel like a shitty person from that situation. You know, like some things unfolded where I believed this one person, then found out that they were actually being the one like victimized, and their other partner had made up a series of stories to make it look like they were the victim. Because and you know what, it made more sense because it's like usually when you think about the situation, you're gonna think about who looks like the more aggressive one in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, I mean, honestly, it's like with what happened with you, right? when you were a kid, like a lot of times you're gonna take a side on that story right off the bat because you're not exactly sure what to do, but you don't want to be the guy who's like, damn, I was wrong because I picked the wrong side, but then at the same time you're still wrong because you decided to pick a side in that battle without having more evidence on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's always good to reserve judgment until you have all the evidence in front of you. But sometimes it's hard for people to remain unbiased because sometimes people are emotionally invested in something.
Yeah. It's also something primitive about us too.
Well, it's like with the situation with me with that girl. I mean, that's that girl. That girl's mom is of course going to feel some type of way about it because that's her kid.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know me.
Yeah.
But I remember when the whole thing was over. I remember the mom came to me and said she was sorry that happened to me, and she felt bad about it. I mean, it happened years later when she said it to me, of course, because I saw her because I worked at IHOP as a server. She came up to me and she said, "Hey, look, I'm sorry what my daughter did to you. That was really bad." And I was like, "Bad?"
That is an understatement.
That is the most cringy crap that anybody could ever do to anybody. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
She goes, "Yes, you're absolutely right." And I was like, "Good. I'm glad you understand." I was like, if it's all the same to you, I know your kid's sitting over there. I don't want to be anywhere near her, so I'm going to the other side of the room. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I walked away from it.
Yeah.
So
I have a friend currently right now who's in a situation that I've honestly advised him is like, you might need to either just like quit your job because the person is stalking him.
yeah, it's hard.
And that's the next one that's scary is like how eventually all these toxic traits accumulate into someone being a stalker.
Yeah.
It's like that guy who can't get over the fact that his girlfriend of so many years broke up with him. It's like, dude, come on.
Well, another really toxic thing to kind of add to that is when somebody is in a relationship and the relationship is way too unbalanced.
Yeah.
Like it's all about that one person and not enough about the other person. You know, I think that's really toxic. I hate how, sometimes people get put in a position where it's all about what this partner wants, what this partner needs, and it's never ever about like what this other person wants or needs, and those wants and needs go unnoticed, and then that person explodes at a certain point, and then people get mad at that person for exploding, and it's like this all could have been prevented if the dialogue and communication was going on between these people.
Yeah, and I mean it's like it's kind of like the old statement where people say like, happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah.
As my wife says, she hates that statement because it's like it shouldn't only be about one person.
Yeah.
Kind of go off of what you're saying. It's like she says it should be a happy spouse, happy house. Like that you guys work together to actually make your life better. Because if you're having an imbalance and you're only living for one person in the relationship, the other person stops feeling like it's a relationship and feels like it's another job.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's one of those things that you're starting to see a lot of people too in this current age of dating and marriage is that it seems like the people who are staying together, their marriages are an anomaly because they're actually working together, while everybody else it feels like another job to them. Like, oh, now I have to be a husband and I have to be a father, and if they have kids or not, it's like, or vice versa with the wife. It's like now I gotta be a wife again. I gotta be a mother. It's like why do you have to look at it like that? Well, maybe you shouldn't have married somebody off of a whim that you just met. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's another thing is that people I've noticed are also like rushing relationships quickly without truly knowing who they're getting with. It's another bad case of toxic behavior too, because you're just looking to end the loneliness, but loneliness itself seems to be one of those things that is a toxic trait that we're all inheriting at this current generation.
Yeah.
And I would have to say the millennials and the Gen Z kids, they're two generations that inherited levels of loneliness. Like the millennial kids feels like they got like a good balance of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's still people who were able to succeed out of it, but it feels like Generation Z is like really getting fucked with it right now, to where they're not exactly sure how to overcome that imbalance of emotional loneliness and physical loneliness. But, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think their emotional and physical loneliness is probably a result of addiction to social media and stuff,
Yeah.
because they get those highs off of getting likes and stuff on, for them it's TikTok. They love that TikTok shit.
Yeah.
That's like their whole thing. They love TikTok, so they gotta be on the tickety talk, and they gotta get those likes and those views, and it's almost like they're more obsessed with doing that than actually forming personal relationships with people in real life. Like they'd rather make friends online or make I wouldn't call them real friends on TikTok. More like they're trying to get people to just like them on there.
Yeah, it's like it's a sad reality that we live in, where things like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Well, now TikTok's probably the biggest thing that exposes what your life is like on the outside to other people.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've never really liked about social media, is that sometimes I feel like people put too much of their personal life out there into the world, and I would even consider that maybe a toxic trait, because I don't think everybody needs to know your fucking personal business 24/7.
Why I'm kind of glad I don't actually like have my face, like it's there, it's just I don't use it, you know what I mean?
I mean, you could even say social media is a toxic trait.
It is.
Because it's sort of become like a part of us, right? And people get so addicted to it, they always got to be posting something every 2 seconds,
Yeah.
I mean, I have to force myself to do it.
I would have to say that my mood has definitely changed since I just don't do it anymore. I like to post my morning workouts on my Snapchat, just because it's something I like to show, and I have a few of my friends that tell me, it's like, dude, I like this. This is actually kind of inspirational. Or they come out there. Like I had a friend call me last week who was asking me for some help on some fitness goals that he wanted to put forward for himself, because he wants to better himself.
Well, and to add to the whole toxic social media thing, I think that's bringing out a lot of toxicity in people, because you can't even just post anything anymore, like an opinion anymore, without somebody commenting on your post being like, oh, you're a piece of shit, or you fuck you, or this or that, or I hate you. I see that it happens all the time. It's gotten to the point where I don't even post anything anymore, because no matter what I post, somebody's not going to like it. Like somebody on the right's not going to like it, or somebody on the left's not going to like it, It's always, you ever notice whenever you post something that doesn't get people riled up, nobody ever looks at it, nobody posts on it. It just kind of sits there.
I remember I posted a picture of the Obamas, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a family photo. It was a family photo. It's like, please no like I just put out there. It's like, please no politics. Just enjoy this as a family photo, because that's all it is. And somehow that riled up a bunch of people to like come out there and start like already like coming out there with their politics. And it's like I don't care if you agree or disagree with the guy. It's like, you have to look. You're like, can't you just look at this family photo right now and say like, damn, this is actually a really nice family photo. Like, you're writing me paragraphs of what you don't like about the guy. Mm-hmm. And it's like those paragraphs that you spent time typing out on social media could have been spent doing anything else.
Well, a recent thing I saw that was really toxic on social media was people were talking about servers and tipping servers, right?
Yeah.
The argument is, if you don't tip servers, then you're a piece of shit. And then the other argument from the other side is, well, if they don't give me good service, I'm not going to tip them. And then here I am in the middle, between the middle of them. I'm like, why the fuck is it our responsibility to pay these fucking people? Why doesn't the fucking job pay them a livable wage? Because in Europe, servers are paid a livable wage because they work just as hard as the kitchen staff. Why don't you fucking pay them a good wage?
Yeah.
Like, nobody talks about that, But people always want to talk about, like, oh, you're a piece of shit if you don't do this, or you're a piece of shit if you don't do this. It's like, why aren't we paying these people a livable wage? Why is it the customer's responsibility to pay the wages of the employee And why isn't the employer paying them what they deserve and what they earn?
Well, it's kind of like the argument you can use that same argument with anything really. It's like when people say like, oh God, we got to save all these kids that are getting like sex trafficked, right? Well, why is it that when we're vetting people at the border, right? It's a program that the Obama administration came out because they found out that a bunch of people were coming over the border with kids that weren't their own, and either killing them or trafficking them, right? Mm-hmm. So they had to separate the parents from the children. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it was like you can't separate families, and it's like they're separating the families because there's been an astronomical amount of cases where these aren't the kids of the person crossing the border.
Okay.
So it's like it's a shitty situation because, you know, I mean, people are gonna have that, well, close the border or, you know, make it more open. It's like we're just talking about like having these kids be safe right now. If you're like believing in keeping children safe, right? This idea would make sense to you, but it's also one of those next messages that if you just suggest like, hey, wait a minute, what if that's not the kid? They freak out on you. Mm-hmm. But then again, I mean, it's like all those hot button issues. Like for some reason, the server thing is up there with the U.S. and Mexico border, guns and the gun control argument in the U.S. and education, and the fight for the minimum, like the different variations of how much money you want for the minimum wage. It goes up, it goes down, you know. Mm-hmm. Those are all like 5 big arguments that I've realized that like put people against each other.
Well, it's even with the minimum wage thing. People want to either make it go up. People argue to keep it the same. I'm like, not even talking about the minimum wage. I'm talking about why the fuck does the cost of living keep going up? That's what we need to address. Why the fuck does the same apartment that looks exactly the same like 10 years ago, when not much has changed in 10 years in terms of like how much you make, why does that same apartment go from $700 a month to like $1,300 a month? That's a problem.
See, that's what we were addressing. My wife and I were talking about. It was like, how the hell did it go? How did our rent go up as much as it did? Like, did we get new things in our apartment that we didn't notice? Like, it's like, oh, well, it's a luxury apartment now. It's like, so what you're telling me is I didn't live in a luxury apartment before.
But they haven't done anything to it.
Exactly. So you're like, you're sitting there and you're like,
it's just words. They don't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the most amazing thing is like, if you're not for raising the minimum wage or keeping it.
I mean, are you telling me that the rent is too damn high guy was like making the most sense out of everybody?
Yes.
You know?
Maybe he was right. Maybe he was right that the rent was just too damn high.
It is. It's too fucking high. And a lot of things are too fucking high, you know?
I remember when rent like back in 2012 was better over here.
Yeah, I lived in Sandy Springs in 2010, and my rent was $650 a month. And I went and checked that same place out about a year ago when I was looking to move. And the same apartment, they showed me pretty much the same apartment. Nothing had really changed. It still got the same carpet and shitty fucking countertops and stuff. And they're like, this is $1,200 a month. I'm like, this is $1,200 a month?
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah. And I'm like, it's like, are you smoking crack up your ass? And she goes, what?
Yeah, it's
what?
like,
She's like, what? It's like, dude, like, this is the same fucking place that I lived in 10 years ago, and it's the same. It looks exactly the same. And she's like, oh, no, we made a few changes. I was like, no, you didn't. It's the same. I lived here. I know exactly what this place was like. It looks exactly the same. And she's like, well, this is just what the market says. I was like, I don't give a fuck what the market says. This place is only worth $600. I was like, if you're not taking $600, I'm out. And I just like left, you know? Yeah. It's the same thing happened with another place I lived in Duluth. That one's even worse, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, in Duluth. This place was $725 a month back in 2009.
Wow.
Now they want $1,500 for it. So it didn't just double; it quadrupled almost.
Yeah.
And when she told me that, I just started laughing. I was like, are you smoking crack? What is wrong with you? And she goes, nothing. That's how much it is. I was like, would you live here? And she's like, oh, no. I'm just like, of course you wouldn't. I was like, this is stupid, right? And she goes,
It's like a bunch of white suburban kids saying defund the police, and the areas that they're trying to defund the police in are the high crime areas that they don't live in.
yeah,
It's like it's like that was that one senator who who tried to turn it back around when people were like, well, you cut the funding from from the police in your sector, you know. I was like, but you have like you're paying $70,000 for private security. She's like, do you want me to die? It's like, no, but doesn't this seem kind of hypocritical that you're safe because you can afford it, right? But you're like, all right, I'm just gonna cut the funding out of the group of people that are gonna be patrolling the streets in a high crime area. And even that, like, right, it's like COVID and what happened all of last year should have brought people together, but instead it divided people a lot more. And that has even that I guess that also say that politics is a toxic trait too. Like your dedication to your politics is a very toxic trait. Like people who are like, oh, if you vote this way, I don't want to be friends with you.
yep. And then they want to end a friendship right after that.
Yeah. Although I will say it is kind of disturbing how this time around I saw less American flags in people's yards and more like flags for Biden or Trump. And I was like, whatever happened to just having Old Glory just waving away in the wind in your front yard?
Yeah.
Like instead of having your politician on something with a bunch of stars, like you're basically you're doing your political banners look like what your American flag is supposed to look like, but you're clearly showing us that we have divided completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, that's I've seen pretty toxic. I've seen some pretty toxic stuff when it comes to politics. I mean, even in my own family. I mean, my mom is a perfect example of that. Like I went over there one day and they were talking about my aunt was there. My cousin Brandy was there. Like everybody was there, and they were talking about how our country's going to end when Biden gets elected. And I looked at him and I go, it's going to be the same shit, different day. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to be eating the same shit sandwich, dude. I don't know why. I don't know who the fuck y'all think this is. And they were like, well, it's going to be different this time. I'm like, oh yeah, like it was different with Obama, and like it was different with George Bush, and like it was different with Mitt
Right.
Romney. I was like, all these different people that are running for office. I was like, come on. I was like, what kind of crack are you smoking up your ass, dude?
Dude.
You know, I mean, like I don't know. I just told him. I was like, it's gonna be the same shit, man. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, there may be some minor differences, like gas might go up, like housing costs may go up, you know.
Your disability or
Yeah.
benefits might go up. Your social safety nets might vary.
Yeah, I was like, but it's not gonna be this radical change like you're talking about. I was like, you know what you guys sound like? You guys sound like the people who got upset when Trump got elected. All my liberal friends when Trump got elected.
That got really toxic real quick too. Like you couldn't even say anything because everyone was like, "Oh, so you're a Trump supporter?" It's like, "No, I just really don't want to talk about politics." Oh, because you're a Trump supporter? No, I just want to have a normal day, which isn't like talking about the same thing we've been talking about the last 2 months.
Well, it's like, you know, I remember when the election was going on between Biden and
Oh man.
and Trump. I remember my mom was sitting there talking about it because I had to go vote, and I was there with her, and I didn't vote for either one of those fucking jackasses. I remember talking to my mom about it, and I told her, I was like, you know, you know, Biden's probably gonna win, and she goes, whatever. She just gets mad about it. I'm like, well, no. I'm not trying to be. I'm not saying I'm not. I was like, I'm not voting for him. I'm just letting you know he's probably gonna win. And she goes, whatever. Just like getting all mad about it. I'm like, why are you getting mad at me? I'm just telling you the truth. And she's like, I don't believe you. And I'm like, he's gonna win. Like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I said the same thing. You know, I told her, I was like, you know, I told her, like, you remember the election with Clinton and Trump?
Yeah.
And She was like, yeah. I was like, remember how I said Trump was going to win? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, you agreed with me then. Why are you disagreeing with me now? I'm just letting you know how this is going to play out. I knew Trump was going to win. I made no misconceptions about that. I knew Trump was going to beat Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton sucks. People hate her with a passion.
Yeah.
People do not like her, you know?
It was crazy though that they had everything against they had everything that they could have ever wanted in so many other candidates though, and they went with Biden.
Well, it's the same thing with Hillary. Why the fuck did they go with Hillary?
Yeah, it's like you guys had they could have won the last election, for example, if they didn't snub Sanders, you know? As like love him or hate him, whatever your ideas are on the guy, as like they had an actual fighting chance to win that one. Now it just felt like you're right. Like you knew it wasn't going to be Trump that won, but at the same time, you're like, man, this was like such a lazy win. Like you didn't really want the guy, but you voted for him because you didn't want the other guy. And then they were still at each other's throats, like way after, to the point where it just got violent.
I mean, I remember when Biden won. I remember like most people weren't too happy about it, but then there was like the very small, minute amount of people that were like, "Oh yeah, Biden won, yay!" And I'm like, let's not get excited about that, please. Like, you know,
it's not even taking a shot at the former and current president. It's just the fact that it's like we didn't really. It's like you didn't like the choices were just not that great. Like you kind of knew you're like this is gonna go one way or the other right now.
Yeah. The thing is, though, whenever people pick a political side, they can't see that their candidate has a lot of problems. A lot of times, like for instance, like you know, I know a lot of Trump supporters that would openly admit that Trump was a fucking piece of shit. He was a fucking asshole. You know, he was not a very nice, good person. But then on the flip side, when it was talking about Biden, I know so many people that just wouldn't admit that Biden was a fucking creep, dude. He was a weird dude. You know, fucking sniffing people's hair and fucking couldn't remember shit half the time. And I'm just like, I was like, dude, like I know people that are voting for Biden, they can admit this. Why the fuck can't you admit that there's something wrong with this guy? Like what's wrong with you?
I think it was like, was it Jesse Ventura? Yeah. Like way back, he made the best sense when he was on Howard Stern's show. Yeah, that he was talking about how people pick political parties like they pick football teams. Like they're just like even if their team sucks, like they're always gonna be like, well, we'll get them next year. Well, it's been 30 years, but we'll get them.
Well, it's like when Trump when Trump was getting elected and Hillary was pretty much losing. They went around and they were asking these really poor people, these poor dumb motherfuckers in Mississippi. They were like. They went to like one of the poorest towns in the United States, and they were like asking these people, "There's this guy that missing no teeth, and
missing all of his teeth. You mean?
Oh yeah, missing like pretty much most of his teeth. Yeah,
yeah.
And he was just sitting there talking to this lady, and the lady was like, she's like, "Do you think Trump cares about you?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's gonna do a lot for us. Trump's gonna really help us. This gonna be really great." And she was like, "Well, the Republicans haven't really helped you before." And he was just like, he's like, "Well, they might. And then she's like, "Yeah, but like," she's like, "I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but Democrats are usually the ones that put like social programs in motion that help you." And he's like, but Trump might help me. He might. Like that's all he kept talking about. And I was just like, I feel like this guy is like got the typical mindset of the average American.
It's the average cheeseburger American.
Yeah.
With every cheeseburger you eat, it's at this point you become far more American.
It's like my aunt. My aunt lives on disability. She gets help from the government. She has all this stuff. She's basically taking advantage of programs that Democrats, on average, like put into place. And she is a Republican, and I'm just like, wouldn't you be a Democrat if you were that like I'm not trying to call her pathetic or anything, but she kind of put herself in those situations, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just find it funny that she's a not a Trump supporter, but like just a Republican. But then she votes against her own interest, I guess. It's really bizarre because someone like her, she would probably want that stuff the most. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, then again, though, you have to kind of think about it too, right? It's like libertarians, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of an interesting concept on paper, but if you, I think the worst people you could talk to about politics, like that have the most toxic behavior, it's libertarians.
Yeah.
And yeah, because at least like at least that the socialists know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
But the libertarians are the ones who don't like who are kind of like your mom's reaction about like Biden's gonna win, like really freaks out. It's like you when you tell them, it's like, man, you're it's like, do you actually really believe all this stuff? Like when like what is it? I'm trying to think of like one of the ones that they have where it's almost like they're big cucks for business. Like, well, I don't need the minimum wage. It's like, yeah, because Amazon's gonna pay you fairly for your work. Like I hear so many of them argue about the minimum wage, how government has to get out of business, and it's like, yeah, because why would we want to stop monopolies from happening, or crony capitalism? because because business is so safe being able to operate on its own without ever taking advantage of its workers.
Yeah.
I mean, the meatpacking.
Where's the checks and balances there?
Yeah, it's like the meatpacking industry, for example, is like one of those places that does the worst job.
Yeah.
And you're wondering like, hey, can we ever just like, maybe we should give your workers like fair wages and a stronger union? Nope, that's that commie bullshit.
Nah, I support 100% support unions. My grandfather was in a union. My dad's in a union. So was my uncles. So
I mean, yeah, sure. You should have the You should have the choice to whether or not you want to be part of the union.
because I think unions are useful because it keeps everything in a check and a balance. I mean, obviously, I don't think unions should exploit people either.
workers.
Yeah, but I think it should be there to try to help people when it's necessary.
Yeah, it's a very very interesting thing either way.
Yeah.
Like people, because I think politics has to be the most toxic thing we encounter these days.
Yeah.
And social media, and mix that with social media, you've got a recipe for just disaster.
Well, I mean, it's all people that just can't get over themselves, and they can't. It's what it is. I think we have a crisis of toxic behaviors caused by a lot of mental health problems in this country.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's not being treated. Instead of being treated, these people are engaging in really dangerous activities that make it worse.
Well, we also shut down a lot of the mental institutions in this country. We also over medicate people with medications that they don't need to be on.
Yeah.
Like and also there's a negative stigma I find with people who are actually suffering with mental health, is that there's like there's toxic behavior in that. Is like, if you go seek help, there's something wrong with you, and that if there is something wrong with you, when you seek help, it's like, oh, now we can't hire you because you're mentally unstable. It's like
I've dated, the last couple girls I've dated have been pretty crazy. Like they had some serious mental health problems, and I didn't notice it till like they broke up with me.
Yeah.
Like I dated this one girl who, her explanation for breaking up with me was that I was too negative all the time. And that really confused me because, like, yeah, I can be negative sometimes, but most of the time I'm not that negative, I mean, I deal with my own mental health problems and I'm working through them. But I come to find out later, I don't think she broke up with me because it was too negative. I think she just was a serial dater and she just liked to date so many people all at once, which that's a very toxic pattern of behaviors there too. But that's what it's been like a couple times here and there, is like just toxic, like mental health problems just come out. And, I honestly don't date people with serious mental health problems like that anymore. I just avoid them like the plague. I know that sounds really mean, judge me if you want, but I just try to avoid it, because every time I try to date those people, they always do some really toxic shit to me, and I don't like it. Like, people with borderline personality disorder, I pretty much avoid those people like the plague now, because those people are crazy. They'll gaslight the shit out of you, and then they'll make you think that you have the same exact disorder as they do. Like there's one girl I tried dating, even 3 or 4 months ago, and she has diagnosed borderline, and she was trying to self-diagnose me. And I told her, I was like, I don't have that. I have autism, I have depression, and I have anxiety.
Yeah.
I do not have fucking borderline personality disorder. I don't get attached to people like that. It takes a lot for me to get attached to somebody. And that's one of the traits of people with borderline. They jump from relationship to relationship. They always have to be in a relationship. They have toxic tendencies to cheat on people. It's like a whole list of shit. Like
It's a hodgepodge.
yeah, I could list it all off. I'm not gonna bore you guys with that, but it's just like it's very toxic, and I've dated a few people with that now. And no offense, if anybody listening to this has borderline, I don't think you're a bad person. I just don't want to deal with it. It's caused me a lot of trauma dealing with it.
Yeah.
But the last girl I was talking about that had it, she got mad at me because I was having fun.
Well.
Yeah. She got mad because I was having fun. And she quit talking to me because I was having fun. No.
That's something.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I even offered to help her with something, and she didn't want my help. And I was like, then she got mad at me, and I was just like, you didn't tell me you needed help with that thing. Why are you getting mad at me? I was like, I'm just having fun. What's your problem? And I just couldn't understand it, But I just kind of let it go, But I kind of just, I moved on from that, and to kind of wrap up the podcast, I just want to say, like, anybody who's watching this, if you have any like toxic, behaviors that or realize that you have, please just go get some help. I've been seeing a therapist for like 1.5 years now, and it's like really helpful. I pay when I can because they're kind of expensive sometimes, but don't overly medicate yourself all the time. Try to figure out how to fix it the best you can without the least amount of medications, because medications do have a lot of really bad side effects sometimes.
And don't self-medicate with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, just try to like figure out what your toxic patterns are and try to break them so you don't do them anymore.
It's not a fight that you can go out alone, so definitely go seek the help that you need.
Yeah.
So that you can get better.
Yeah, exactly. But, in the comments section down below, please, tell us any stories that you've had with yourselves doing toxic behavior, or, people that have done toxic behavior, because we'd like to hear those stories as well.
Yes.
And as usual, share this with your friends, rate it, and subscribe to our channel. If you like what you're seeing and you want to get more content, go ahead and go to our Patreon account, become a patron, and then you can see some of our behind the scenes stuff, and you get some goodies along the way. Go to our website, www.dumbcoolweird.com, and check out our merch.
Yep. Got
a lot of really cool stuff on there. And check out our other social media platforms that we're on. But, to kind of wrap it up, just stop. We need to stop doing toxic behavior, and we need to learn to try to get along with each other a lot more. But but I think the first step is stopping these toxic patterns that we keep falling prey to, which probably is going to take us quitting our addiction to social media and stuff like that.
The thing that will be our bread and butter.
Yeah, pretty much. But this is Wes. This is Nick.
Stay sexy, Atlanta.
Yeah. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Dumb, Cool, and Weird podcast with Wes and Nick. If you want to check out more of our stuff, go to www.dumbcoolweird.com. You'll find our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Patreon link if you want to support us. Also, be sure to check out our merch store. And if you're interested in being on our podcast, you can find a link on our website so you can reach out to us and tell us if you want to talk to us about something that's really weird, dumb, or cool. We'd be glad to hear from you. Hope you will stay tuned for the next weird ass episodes we got. Thank you.